Hopefully you have your humors aligned. You get your crystals. Maybe you got a Ouija board nearby because we have Diego Sanchez. Now, is he the nightmare? Does he have an extra nickname that he's going to bring into fight week? And how is coaching under Mr. Joshua Fabia going? I don't know. He's taking on Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, this week. And Matt, Jake Matthews on a little bit of a run. We knew him at 155 pounds. We've seen what he can do at 170 pounds. And I know he has that one blip on the radar, especially in his last 5 fights against Anthony Rocco Martin. But there was a time not that long ago where Anthony Rocco Martin ranked at welterweight. And Rocco, similar to Jake Matthews, and I know that's a conversation we had before they fought, was really, what do we get out of this guy at 55? Is the future there? And for Jake Matthews, a little bit younger when he was fighting at 55, and you kind of scratched your head. Same thing with Rocco, hitting a stride at 70. And Jake Matthews, Matt, going to be walking into the cage having just celebrated his 26th birthday. He's been around for a while.
Yeah.
It's just that in this fight, he's taking on a guy that's been around for the longest time in Diego Sanchez, coming in from the Ultimate Fighter when the Ultimate Fighter came in. Like, it's insane. We know the fact that Diego Sanchez, he's competed at what? 45, 55. He's competed at 70
and 80.
And 85. And if you look at it in terms of the UFC record book, if he fights, he's going to tie for 4th all time of most total fights in the UFC. He's going to tie with Damian Maia at 32, as well as Andrei Arlovsky. If he wins, he's going to tie John Jones and George St. Pierre, as well as Michael Bisping, for most wins in the UFC at 4th, I guess, all time. And for Diego Sanchez, if he wins by decision, he's going to top George St. Pierre for most decision wins in the UFC. He's also going to lap, hopefully, if this fight doesn't end incredibly quickly, he's going to pass Jeremy Stephens for 4th all-time in most total fight time in the UFC. He currently sits at 6 hours and 22 minutes. Wow. That's insane. Jeremy Stephens, 6 hours and 28 minutes. And from Diego Sanchez in his last 5 fights, he's kind of got that Shogun vibe going right now because he's not losing fights. And in his last
right
5,
now.
He's 3-2. He's got that disqualification win against Michel Pereira where he was losing that fight. And it was a fight where it was kind of weird. I mean, Diego Sanchez has been a pinnacle of New Mexico MMA for the longest time. That fight was in Rio Rancho, and it was a tough look. I think his kids were there, which was kind of weird. And it wasn't a good showing, but he won, and he asked the referee if, was that shot illegal? Yeah, it's illegal. All right, here we go. So we have Diego Sanchez, he talked on Mike Swick's podcast back about a month ago that he's got 4 fights left on his deal and he intends on fighting those 4 out, and then that's it for him. That's one of those things that you never want to hear. But I mean, listen, Diego Sanchez has been there and done that. 4 different weight classes for the longest time. He's 38 years old, almost 39. He's putting on competitive fights. I mean, you look at the fight against the Thundercat, Craig White, and
watch it.
Don't me with the Thundercat predictions, but he had the win there where he looked good. He had the win over Mickey Gall, where Mickey Gall didn't look like he belonged in that fight. So at least he's hanging in there against some of these guys at 170. It's just the fact that Jake Matthews, really good takedown offense and takedown defense, decent striking on the feet. He can kind of do it in a lot of different areas. And oh, by the way, he's the biggest favorite on this card, more than a 7-1 favorite on most sites. What do you think about this one here?
This is such a weird fight because Jake Matthews, you kind of know what you're going to get. He hits fairly hard. He's a big guy at 170, which is weird because he was a 155er, but he's fairly big. He failed into the division quite well. There's a lot of guys who kind of move up and down, but you can tell they don't give their body enough time to adjust to the new weight class. But Jake Matthews has been at 170 for a while now, really filled into the division quite well. Diego Sanchez is weird because at this stage in his career, he's going to go for takedowns. He's going to have that kind of wonky, stiff sort of striking style that he does. He just can't take a shot. And it's really unfortunate, but even in the Craig White fight, gets hit by an up kick, gets dropped. Michel Pereira, yes, he won that fight, but it was a very Matt Hamill kind of win. It was, I'm going to get beat for a lot of it, get hit by an illegal strike, and that's how I win. Now, yes, that counts in the record book, so it doesn't really matter what I say or how controversial it was. But when you actually look at the performances from each of his fights, when he fights, not someone who's any good, I won't go that far, but when he does fight the guys who are in that top, I'll say even 25 category, you start to run into some problems because Matt Brown, yes, this was a Matt Brown from about 3 years ago, so he's a little bit different. And Matt Brown holds a special place in my heart forever because he's just one of the most exciting UFC fighters ever. But you look at what he was able to do, Diego Sanchez, and just destroy him with one shot. You see what Ali Quinta was able to do to him. You saw Michael Chiesa was able to do to him, and that wasn't even, oh, I knocked him out. It's just, I'm better than you at everything. He was able to take him down, dominate him on the feet. There's just not many positions in this fight that I see Diego Sanchez having a big advantage in. His cardio might be a little bit better than Jake Matthews, but that really be the only thing I say he does better than Jake Matthews.
Now, this is the question that I'm going to ask you. So 5 fights ago, you got Sanchez versus Brown. And if you look at it on the opposite side, Jake Matthews, so we gave him some shine. We talked about him kind of having a good move up to 70, the one loss to Anthony Rocco Martin. Diego Sanchez, he looked like he's gone so much further over the hill since that Matt Brown fight? And has Jake Matthews improved so much in his last 4, I guess, since he fought Li Jingliang? Because to me, I haven't really seen a big uptick in competition for Jake Matthews. So you beat Li Jingliang in the fight that it was a weird one. You had the eye gouging. So he wins that fight. It was closer than I would have wanted it to be, though. He beat Shinjo Anjai, which, I mean, here's the thing I can say about Shinjo Anjai. When he left the UFC and went over to Bellator to fight Michael Venom Page, people were billing Anjai as, oh, that's just another jobber and another can for MVP to add to his highlight reel. So Jake Matthews has a win over Shinjo Anjai. Okay, big deal. He loses to Rocco, who, again, we're talking like a 20 to 15 guy, and on his best day, maybe closer to 10. So he loses that fight. And then he beats Rostam Akhman, who, I mean, the guy looks like he wears a sweater when he walks into the cage.
Craig, stop it right now. If you're trying to convince me right now that Jake Matthews is going to lose this fight, you need to stop, and we can change this to something else. We can start talking about baseball.
All we need to say is the fact that a win over Li Jingliang, which it was a weird fight, a win over Shinjo Anjai, a win over Rostam Akhman, and a win over Emil Mech aren't as big as the fights or aren't as tough of competition as maybe Diego Sanchez taking on. You talked about it. We're talking Matt Brown.
The Mickey Galls of the world.
Michael Chiesa. We're talking Michel Pereira, who I think Michel Pereira, if he can hone it in, I'm not saying you're a top welterweight, but you're going to put on really impressive performances against some of the better fighters in the division. All of this is to say that I look at the odds, and I had mentioned it from the start. I mean, Jake Matthews, biggest favorite on the card, opens a minus 450. He's now a minus 699. So I guess I fibbed a little bit. Minus 699 average on best fight odds. So there are some different sites that have a minus 750. Diego Sanchez open plus 350, now at a plus 478 if you look over at the average. And then over on Tapology at the total picks at a 909 total picks, 90% going Jake Matthews, 58% saying he's going to win by decision, 32% by knockout. He's an overwhelming favorite. He hasn't taken on the same level of competition that Diego Sanchez has, I believe, in his last 5. I don't think it matters a whole much. It's just an interesting talking point that I find relevant to bring up. All of this to say that Jake Matthews, in terms of his overall grappling, much better at taking it to the ground and holding position than Diego Sanchez is. And I think he definitely threatens more there. I think that's probably where you're going to see him take the fight. Maybe see a flash knockout. I don't totally see it. But I see Jake Matthews just grinding out a decision win here.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to try to do what Michael Chiesa did Diego Sanchez, just kind of wear on him throughout the fight. Now, Chiesa is much better than Jake Matthews, but they kind of do the same things. Just I'd say Chiesa is a little bit better at everything. He's a little bit more well-rounded out of the two, even though Jake Matthews is very well-rounded. I think Jake Matthews hits harder. I think he has better striking. I think he has a better ground game. I think he has better wrestling. Unless he starts eating a lot of body shots early on in the clinch, because Diego Sanchez did that pretty knees in the clinch. We did see that in the Mickey Gall fight. That's one positive I can take. If he can use that in this fight, start to wear on Jake Matthews a little bit on his cardio, he might be able to take an advantage going into that 3rd round, but that's the only thing I can see Diego Sanchez doing that could be positive in this fight. I don't know how Jake Matthews loses this. If he does, it'll be very surprising to me.
And that's what I was trying to bring in as well, or I wanted to bring as well. The fact that Diego Sanchez, if he's going to win this fight whatsoever, you have to expect maybe a little bit of clinch work. If he's on the ground, he could try and threaten a submission. But apart from that, I mean, his numbers are going to be absolutely skewed. Like I said, I mean, we're talking about a guy that's in the top 10 in total fight time in the UFC, top in wins, top in total fights. He's been around for the longest time. So the numbers are skewed. You really have to look at the sample size of his last 5 fights and where he has taken on the Matt Brown and then the Craig White and then the Mickey Gall and then the Chiesa and then Pahea somewhere in there as well. It's really tough to try and gauge it that way. Yes, he's 3-2 out of those, but the Pahea loss is a bit of a scratch. And then we're talking Gall White versus Chiesa Brown. So where does Diego Sanchez really fit into this division? I don't think as highly as Jake Matthews. This is a fight that I would definitely fade because, again, what's the point of going with a guy that's a 7-1 favorite in Jake Matthews if you have a guy in Diego Sanchez where maybe the methods of victory aren't as plentiful as they are for Jake Matthews? But overwhelmingly, yes, I agree with you. I'm going Jake Matthews. You're also going Jake Matthews?
Oh, 100%. Probably by finish. Probably however he wants it. If he wins by knockout, I wouldn't be surprised. If he wins by submission, I wouldn't be. Okay, I'd be surprised if he submits him just because Chiesa wasn't able to. But I just don't see how Jake Matthews can throw this fight away.
But there's definitely fights on here that are a lot closer. So you're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night picks. We're both going with Jake Matthews. But hey, we got a great couple of title fights. You got Reyes and Blachowicz. You've got Adesanya taking on Costa. So you're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night picks, Matt, as we always say. Let's get into it.